Right, morning, Jack. How are you?
I'm good, thank you. How are you?
Not bad, thanks. We actually just talked to the Sports Development Academy this morning, because I think you're somebody who epitomises how discipline and self-control can make a successful, not just athlete, but also individual. So I wanted to talk to you a little bit about, first of all, kind of who you are, introduce yourself. I know that you're obviously an alumni of WSO and kind of that Falcon team. So that's great to hear from you about your success as well, but kind of a little bit about your journey and where you're going now.
Yeah, so I was at WSO for about 3 or 4 years doing GCSEs, then moved on to the BTEC in sport course. And before I started all of this, I was a footballer. I played cricket, never really done anything about triathlon, never even crossed my mind to participate in such an endurance sport one day. But then it was about 2 years ago I decided to take the step up and try something different. Now I wanted to change of playing football, doing cricket, coaching, mix it up, do something I've never usually done before. And I thought I'd do a sprint triathlon, which is a 750 metre swim, a 20 kilometre bike, and a 5 kilometre run. And after I'd done that, I kind of found the bug for the sport and got really addicted to it. So I like the feeling of having the organised lifestyle, getting up early in the morning to get the training done, then going through your normal daily routine, and then training again in the evening. All kind of organised, and that's personally what I like, living an organised day. So then after that, I decided to take the step up to Olympic distance, the 70.3 distance, which is obviously 1.9 kilometre swim, 90 kilometre bike, and half marathon distance, which is one of the peak distances that the sport does. So it's not often that you see many people doing that distance, especially for fun, because not many people enjoy doing it. They're so grueling and brutal. And that's where I found my peak, and that's where I think that distance is best for me. So that's why I've now decided to crack on with and see where it takes me. I'm also planning on going to university in September. So I'm planning on studying at Northumbria in Newcastle. So I'm doing a sports coaching course, as well as running a PGCE after that, to hopefully get my teaching qualification. And then plan on after that, keeping up with the triathlon as well, looking to get a job either here or back out in Dubai or in the UK, and see where the sport takes me, as well as running a career at the same time.
Awesome. So from that, you're being pretty modest, because in terms of how quickly you went up the ranks in terms of those sports, probably comes down to your mentality and your commitment to the sport. So I know that obviously a bit disappointing at the moment due to Corona, but in terms of what did you have on the horizon in terms of your kind of Olympic distance and also Ironman?
So this season I'd planned for 3 races. I'd done Ironman Dubai and Ironman Oman, which had both quite thankfully happened before Corona had kicked in. Oman was, on reflection now, Oman was very lucky in terms of the fact that after the Oman race, the following weekend everywhere had gone into lockdown. So it was a very, very last minute, and from that race I managed to book myself another race into the 70.3 World Championships, which are taking place in Taupo in New Zealand, which should be in November. Obviously we're not sure what's going to happen with that yet. And also before that, in June, I plan to race for Great Britain in the 70.3 distance European Championships. That's now unfortunately been cancelled, so that won't happen at all this year. But thankfully, after my Oman race, I then managed to finish second in my age group. So that's allowed me to then qualify for GB again for the following year. Yeah, my time and also my position.
That's awesome, especially after only taking up the sport at, was it 17?
Say that again.
Did you take up the sport at 17?
Yeah, I took up the sport at 17. Yeah.
Yeah. So within that's 2.5 years, is it? Getting to
2.5
kind
years
of
now, yeah.
Getting to represent your country and then also obviously having success on a national level where you are, and also hopefully moving forward on a more international level. So massive credit to kind of what you're already doing. So well done for that.
Thank you.
In terms of, we've been talking about with the students about kind of what makes the difference between that everyday athlete that's doing well, enjoying their sport, and maybe thinking about moving forward as a career but not really sure, to kind of what makes those 1% that actually then succeed. Not just in sport, but obviously you need those same qualities in everyday life that you go into, in whatever job you go into. Those kind of qualities will kind of put you above the competition. We've been talking about creating good habits, and then last week we talked about, obviously in the current situation, about the importance of being resilient and overcoming adversity. What do you think makes that difference between that 1% and that the everyday athlete?
So I personally think it comes down to having a lot of discipline and self-control. That's the two main attributes that I think you need to take forward with you to make that very good athlete, but also commitment as well. And you want to do it for yourself. You don't want to do it because people have forced you into it. You want to be committed and set yourself reasonable goals, small short-term goals leading on to the bigger picture, which will help you hopefully achieve your end goal, which is to be a top-class athlete.
Yeah. So in terms of, if you were going to summarize kind of for you, what does being disciplined mean, and how can you kind of adopt self-control on like a daily basis?
So discipline means to me, getting rid of the things that you really want to do, but you can't do, that will affect the bigger picture or your training sessions. So such as things like watching lots of TV, playing video games, and socializing. Things like that are things you've got to cut back on to make sure you get enough sleep in, to make sure you get enough recovery, to make sure you're getting the right food to go forward and perform well in your training sessions, which are going to help you then go forward, obviously, to the next level and helping you with your performance. But you also need to try and say that again.
Can you give any like specific examples of when you've really had to adopt that self-control, when there's maybe really something that you've wanted to do, but you've had to keep on track in terms of with your training and with your goals?
So usually, because our weekend out here is Friday and Saturdays, it's like Thursday night, when friends go out socialising, they go out like for dinner at restaurants and things like that, when they're booking tables for like 7 o'clock, 8 o'clock at night, it's going to be a late night. It's just things like that when you've got to say no, because you've got to be up at 4 o'clock the next morning to go for a 3.5 hour bike ride, and then long runs after that. So times like that when you just have to say no and think about yourself. And obviously, sometimes it's hard to say no as well, because obviously friends, they put pressure on you. They obviously want to go out. They obviously think you're a bit crazy as well for what you do. Obviously, we know triathlon people think you're a bit of a machine, so they want you to try and balance absolutely everything. Sometimes it's not easy to do that. You've got to put yourself first sometimes, especially if you want to achieve the big picture.
Do you ever manage to, within that self-discipline and self-control, is it important to kind of to give yourself those breaks and kind of lax the discipline and self-control from time to time? Or do you think that if you're going to achieve your goal, then you've kind of just got to kind of say no to everything until that's reached?
No, I was actually having this conversation with my coach the other day, because we were talking about self-discipline and self-control there as well. And I said to him that I personally think that, it's good having the commitment to the tasks, the training sessions and the races, but you also have to give yourself some freedom as well, to go out and enjoy yourself, let your hair down a bit, go out for a nice meal with friends, you don't always have to get up early, think of a solution to make you balance that work-life balance, so that you don't get put off the sport, because you obviously need that time to socialise. So if you're drilling yourself with it 24/7, it can be a bit unmotivating at times as well, and it can really work against you, and you just get put off the sport.
Yeah, I think something that would be good to as well from you is kind of, I think every young athlete gets told all the time, you need to be disciplined, you need to have self-control, you need to have that champion mindset, you need to always think positive, but it's not as easily said as it is done. Have you got any ways that you can develop that discipline and self-control, or any tips for kind of young athletes, older athletes?
So yeah, there's plenty of ways that you know, personally it comes from sticking with the process and, you know, trusting the process. And a lot of it can be affirmation, so imagining what you're doing and what you want to achieve, and then say that if you want to really achieve that, then you can try different ways of doing it. So maybe you can suggest alternatives of going out earlier, not going out later, or just picturing what you want to achieve in the future, you know, looking at motivational videos, looking at people that you aspire to and seeing how they're doing it. Listen, watch their, most athletes nowadays have got YouTube accounts where they post videos about their daily life, what they do. Maybe it's good to tune into some of them sometimes, because they give great tips on how they stay disciplined, what they do for self-control, and all things like that. And still, they're very successful athletes in what they do. So, you know, just sticking to the task at hand, you know, think about that it's all going to be worth it and what you achieve in the bigger picture. Set yourself small-term goals, which will help with the motivation of you as an athlete, which will obviously want to help you stick on the task and follow your journey through to the end.
Have you got any recommendations at all of like any ones that you particularly watch or listen to, or?
So mine are mostly basically triathletes that I listen to. There's a guy called Lionel Sanders, who's an Ironman athlete, and he's got a very inspiring story of where he's come from, the journey he's faced to get to where he is now. So listening to things like that, he's got a great YouTube account of videos of his training sessions, what he does in the day, daily reviews. So I definitely, if you want to look for an aspiring athlete, definitely look for someone like him as well.
If you were going to kind of say is there any times in your career so far that you've really had to, if you didn't have that discipline and self-control, then you wouldn't be where you are today? Is there any times that have been particularly more challenging, or any times where you've just thought maybe this isn't for me?
You know, when it was coming to the end of my school years, and you've got the graduation, you've got the prom, you've got all the after parties, and you've got all that, sometimes I felt like, you know, times like that is when I had to say no, you know, I can't stay out till 3 o'clock, 4 o'clock in the morning. No, I've got to be sensible here. I've got to dial back and do what's right for me to help me achieve what I want to achieve going forward. But also because I've been so disciplined prior to that, because I've been doing the sport for 2 years before we got to those stages, it was more like that I knew that wasn't for me anymore. And I didn't want to fall back into those habits of going out, staying out late, not getting enough sleep in. But also I think now going forward and going to, fingers crossed, going to university in September, adapting the new university lifestyle, you know, you've got Freshers Week in the first 2 weeks, which isn't always going to be ideal, especially keeping up training. So I think that's going to be when I'm going to have my toughest struggle in that front. But hopefully, you know, I'm disciplined and self-controlled enough now to realise that I can do that and get through those times.
Yeah. Do you think it's also important to kind of to pick those people around you, in terms of the people that you know, that if you are having those kind of moments where you're thinking, is this for me, or should I go out? How important is it to make sure that kind of that those people that are around you are the right kind of people?
I personally think it's very important to decide the people you socialise with, because they obviously have an impact on you as a person as well. You obviously, the more time you spend with them, the more traits you're going to pick up off them. And I suppose if you socialise with a group of people that either be committed athletes, they don't always all need to be athletes, but can be good friends, good people, they will understand that your journey and what you want to achieve, and will respect what you want to do, and obviously won't put enough pressure on you to stay out late. And if you have to leave the dinner early and go back home, then they understand that, and they know it's best for you, and they'd probably be thankful that you've actually gone out with them to see them, knowing that you don't go out with a lot of people.
Awesome. So in terms of, if you were going to kind of summarize what it means to you to kind of the 3 top tips to being a disciplined and control an athlete who adopts self-control, what would they be?
So an athlete who develops self-control is that you've got to have, so it gives you the power to stick to your decisions and your will to want to go forward. So the tips that I could give to people on staying self-controlled and self-disciplined is set yourself short-term goals that are all going to keep you on track and give you something to aim for, leading to the bigger picture. Also, the people you socialise with is another one. You know, make sure you're in a good group of people that make sensible choices and don't do silly things, because that's going to impact you in a lot of ways, not just physically with your training, but also mentally. And it also, depending on what they do, it can affect your reputation as well if you're well known.
Awesome. Yeah, well, thanks for your time this morning, Jack. I think hopefully your tips and kind of speaking from experience yourself with being a young athlete, trying to kind of make it into that adult competition lifestyle will really help a lot of young students, and also, to be honest, a lot of adults as well. So thank you for that. I'm really sorry about the kind of competition that your competition season has kind of come to an end for this next couple of months, but I've got no doubt that you're going to be a huge success.